Good afternoon. My name is Jolene Christensen, and I'm here today to be your host for the legislative salary increase process for FY24. Today, our session is going to last from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. So if you are an agency who's scheduled to facilitate a salary increase this year, you are in the right place. So the agenda for today includes, first, we're going to have Natalie Brandon from DHRM talk a little bit about the salary increase, who is eligible. Then we'll go into those agencies who can opt out and what those specific scenarios are. The next item we'll talk a little bit more about is the legislative salary increase tool in Cardinal, and we'll walk you through slide by slide how that page looks so you can see different parts of that page. That will first be an overview, and then we'll dig in a little bit deeper into each of those slides, reviewing employee data or verifying your business unit. Finally, addressing errors before we get to real live demonstrations. After the demonstrations, we'll do a summary of next step instructions, and finally, review any additional questions and answers we have questions and answer those that we have not been able to address. And then finally, at the end, we'll present the resources that are available that were included and linked in the DHRM memo that went out last week, as well as additional support items. I'm now going to hand over to Natalie Brandon so she can talk to us more about this legislative cycle.
So the 2022 Virginia Acts of Assembly Special Session 1 authorized a 5% salary increase effective June 10th, 2023 for eligible full-time and part-time classified, as well as other salaried state employees, and that includes appointed, at-will, and faculty employees. Unless the role was otherwise noted in the FY24 authorizations and compensation activities memorandum that was distributed and posted last week. This also includes adjunct faculty employees at both 2-year and 4-year colleges and universities. And so with that, one of the things that we did this year to help facilitate that is we have implemented an automated tool in Cardinal to help you evaluate, verify, and process eligible employee increases. So with that, this year, we will not be using the DHRM agency repository to process increases. We will not need to pass files back and forth through that utility. And so we're excited to talk through what we hope is a more efficient, effective process today. So as I noted, who's eligible for the increase? It's going to be salaried employees who were hired prior to 3/10/2023 and who are still actively employed on the effective date of the salary increase, which would be June 10th, 2023. There is a performance eligibility criteria tied to this increase. So employees will need to have achieved a performance rating of at least contributor on their most recent performance evaluation. So if it is an agency that does not use the DHRM process for evaluating contributor, then those agencies will need to be able to verify that the employee meets the equivalent of what would be a contributor rating for those with alternate rating systems. With that, the employee will not receive the increase if they are currently on a leave without pay status. So if they are on any unpaid leave, then the increase is not going to be processed for June 10th. If they are on paid leave, then they would need to have an expected return date on or before June 10th, 2023 in order to receive the increase at this time. With that, I'm now going to transition it for Sam to talk through the process for opting out of using this process for those agencies that would be eligible to do so.
Thank you, Natalie. Okay, so we're going to start off with opting out of the tool. You do have an option of opting out of the tool if your agency would prefer to enter the increases another way. You do have the option of using the HR 003 employee data upload interface if you are an interfacing agency. If you are not an interfacing agency, you also have the option of using the HR 413 job data mass upload to enter your increases. And then you also have the option of manually keying the increase into Cardinal. Whether you choose one of these options, or if you choose one of these options, you still will have to opt out of using the legislative salary increase tool. We'll talk more about that as we go further into the slides. But you do have to opt out, indicating to Cardinal that your agency is not going to participate. For those agencies that decide to opt out, again, you still have to insert your legislative increase in Cardinal, and you will do that by using the action of pay rate change and the reason code of statewide legislative increase, okay? More information can be found about these action and reason codes on the HR 351 action reason code spreadsheet that is located on the Cardinal Project website. Also, if you're opting out, please know that the option to opt out excludes your entire business unit from the centralized processing of the pay increase, okay? Once your agency decides to opt out, your HR administrator's work will be done within the tool, but again, you still need to add your increases to the eligible employees on their job data record. Now, if you decide to opt out of this year's legislative increase, you still have the opportunity of, you still have the opportunity of going into future or opting in to future legislative salary increases. So opting out this year doesn't mean that you'll opt out for future years or future increases. Now, how do we go about opting out? We have some high-level steps, but it's pretty straightforward. You would navigate to that legislative salary increase review page by following the navigation in step 1. And then you will select the specific salary increase cycle that you're opting out. You will only see one cycle, as this is the first year we're utilizing this tool. So you'll look for that specific cycle, and then you'll look for your specific business unit. If your agency is responsible for multiple business units and multiple business units are electing to opt out, you would have to repeat those steps for each business unit. Okay, you'll have to opt out for each business unit. Once you search for that specific business unit that you're going to opt out for, you'll see a summary statistics section on that page, the legislative salary increase review page. And you'll see the checkbox, which you see on your screen. You'll click on that checkbox and you'll either click on the save only button that you see on the screen, or at the very, very bottom of this page, you'll see a save button. Either or will work, but that's how you will elect or indicate to Cardinal that your agency is electing to opt out of the process. Now, this information is also maintained in our job aid. So if you do have questions about opting out, please reference this brand new job aid. One thing to note, this job aid is a temporary job aid for this specific salary increase year. Every time that Cardinal rolls out a new salary increase, they will update this job aid and post a new job aid. So this is the temporary job aid for this specific fiscal year 24 increase. And this job aid can be found where all of our job aids are located on the Cardinal Project website under the Learning tab.
So Sam, before you move on, what's one of the benefits from opting out?
Okay, one benefit for opting out, I don't know about the benefits, but one of the agencies may elect to opt out if they don't have eligible or employees that are eligible for a salary increase. And another reason an agency may elect to opt out is if they are an interfacing agency and they're already sending their salary increases via the interface.
All right, great. There's a couple other questions that have come in about 3/10/2023 is, so the one question we have is, she heard the presenter say an employee had to be hired prior to March 10th to be eligible, but the memo says that the employee in salaried positions as of March 10th are eligible. Could you clarify if those hired on March 10th are eligible?
Yes, on or before March 10th are eligible for the increase.
All right, so to repeat that, on or before March 10th, those individuals are eligible for salary increases.
Yes.
And we will update the deck prior to distributing it. So we're going to close all those questions associated with that.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So let's actually go over this page, the tool, and see the tool and its different functionality. Again, we're going to go high level and look at the different sections of the tool. And then we'll dig a little bit deeper and talk about how the tool functions and what the sections are for. And then we're going to go into how you will utilize each section to process your agency's information through the tool. So starting off with the actual page, as you see here, there's a lot of information on this page. So that's why we broke down this specific form deck in this way so that we can cover everything. One thing I want to mention, you will hear me say some terminology that you may not understand right away, but we're introducing it to you ahead of time, and then we'll drill down a little bit deeper into what we're actually talking about and what that means in later slides. So just hold on as we go through the slides in detail, okay? The legislative salary increase review page is located under the Workforce Administration tab. And once you search for your specific business unit, as you see here, this is business unit 1000 or 10,000, sorry. When you enter the page, you'll see your business unit. You'll also see some information, some instructions on the page, as well as some information about your specific business unit and the page's current functionality. In the specific instructions section, you will see high-level instructions about the salary increase. The instructions will vary depending on the increase cycle. They will also vary depending on the phase of the cycle that we're in for the increase. And we'll talk a little bit more about the different phases of the cycle. And the instructions may also change whether or not there are any targeted agency-specific increases approved in accordance with the Act of Appropriations. The instructions will always include the tool refresh schedule. And as I mentioned, the phase of the cycle, that's going to be when the instructions may change depending on where we are in the refresh schedule. Also, We encourage you to review the instructions, and if you choose to collapse the instructions after you review, you would just click on the black caret icon just to make it smaller. The next section we're going to go over is the summary statistics section. That is right below the instructions. You remember from the full page screenshot. The summary statistics section is used to review your summary statistics for your agency or business unit. It has multiple columns, as you see here. Some of the columns are not shown in this view because this particular section will change depending on where we are in the refresh cycle. Okay. For those agencies that elect to opt out, there is that opt out checkbox that we talked about. That's where you'll go, click on the checkbox and select the save only button or the save button at the very bottom of the page. And on this specific section of the page, you'll see some information about your totals for your agency's population. You will use that column to confirm or verify your agency's totals to make sure that you have the same number of salaried employees within your agency. And if you don't, you will need to take action to make sure that those specific employees that are not shown here are included for the legislative increase if they are eligible. The next section we're going to discuss is the populating grid section. This specific section is on the right side of the page, top right side of the page. And this is specifically for filtering your employees, your list of employees in your agency, okay? You will use this section as needed. If you want to see a full list of your employees, you will leave the filters blank and populate the grid, or you will export to Excel. If you want to filter down by department or by salary admin plan or by the specific employee, or only see blocked, system block employees, you'll select that specific filter. We're going to talk a little bit more about the differences of populating grid later on, but you have two options. You can populate the grid on the actual page itself, or you can export a Excel spreadsheet of your population and download that onto your computer and work off of that specific spreadsheet. If your agency has over 1,600 employees, you will have to export your entire population into an Excel spreadsheet to see the full list. The grid display on the page is capped at 1,600 employees. But you certainly can utilize the filters at the top in this section to see your employees filtered by department or to just manage the list on the display grid. All right, so you'll use the populate grid section, and that will display your salaried employee level section with your list of salaried employees. Again, it's based on your search criteria. So if you elect to leave it blank for all, you will see your entire population. And if you use one of the filters, you will only see those specific employees. And once you click on the populate grid section, this salaried employee level section will fill out with all your employees. In this section, we have 3 different tabs. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but they are 3 different views for looking at your population and its data. And then again, we see that the display online will only allow 1,600 salaried employees at a time. So for our larger agencies, you will still need to export your population, your entire population, to an Excel spreadsheet in order to see everybody. On this specific section, you will use this area to review your population, as well as any system blocks or system notes. We'll talk about that a little bit later in detail. And validate the additional columns for your population. All right, we'll go into reviewing employee data. Again, in order to see your population of employees, you will use that populate grid section, okay? You can filter by department, salary, admin plan, employee ID, or system block only, or you can export to Excel. If you are going to export to Excel and you want your entire population, you'll leave the specific parameters blank. But if you want to just export a specific by specified department or salary admin plan, etc., you will select that specific value and then click on the export to Excel spreadsheet, export to Excel button. If you choose to populate the grid, again, I said we have 3 different views. We have the summary view, the details view, and the load errors view. A little bit more information about these views. The summary view obviously will give you a summarized version of your salaried employees information, okay? The details tab view, that's going to display a little bit more information about your salaried employees. And it also includes their current salary amount, their new salary amount, and the percentage of the increase. The load errors tab will not display until after the salary increases are centrally processed on June 10th of 2023. So you will utilize that specific tab to review and identify any employees that did not process, as well as any error messages that will include the reasons as to why the employee did not process. All right, system blocks. In this screenshot, you will see system blocks as well as system notes that are called out. And that specific column or those specific columns in the salaried employee level section are important to you. That is where you're going to see how the system has been configured to automatically block employees, as well as why they are being blocked, okay? There'll be a little system note telling you what's going on with that employee. This is where you're going to review your employees' data and confirm your employees that are supposed to be blocked based on the DHRM fiscal year 2024 authorizations and compensation activities memorandum. Again, if your employee is displayed as blocked, you will see the word blocked in the system block column. And in the system notes column, you will see some information about why the employee is blocked. If the employee should not be blocked, the agency will be responsible to take necessary actions to address the issue. That may include submitting a VCCC ticket into Cardinal. So you'll want to review that information as soon as possible and get those tickets in if correction mode is needed to correct the information. Now, once you make corrections to any employees that are blocked because of the reason that the system note generates, and you go make that correction, once the page has been refreshed, and I know you probably don't know what that means yet, but once the page has been refreshed and the data has been corrected, the system indicator of blocked will be removed, as well as the reason for the block. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the notes that will block your employees from receiving the legislative salary increase. As noted here, each system block comes with a corresponding note. And we have this table that will be handy for you to print out and keep as a desk aid that will help you understand, what the system means and what is causing the system note to be generated. So in this table, we have a system note of hired after 310, which is obvious, but the cause would be the continuous service date is after March 10th of 2023. We also have, well, I'm not going to go down the list. You guys can see that for yourself. But another reason that would cause a block is suspended status or an expected return date is missing, etc. So review the table so that you will familiarize yourself with the causes of the system notes and the blocks. That way you can go ahead and validate the information and make any corrections that are needed. There will be times where you will see a system note in the column, but it does not result in a blocked indicator on the grid. And that means that the employee has a data issue, but they may not be blocked from receiving the legislative increase. Even though they might not be blocked, they may result in an error when the increase loads into Cardinal. So essentially they won't get the increase, but they won't be appearing as blocked. You will still need to take action on those specific issues if you can. And again, you will address them as part of your review. Some reasons that you will see a note that is a non-blocking system note would be the increase is going to put the employee over their max rate, or the new salary is going to be under their min rate. Those specific types of transactions will need to be sent to DHRM for them to process. You'll also see a note for citizenship status. If the employee's citizenship status is not entered into Cardinal, or it's blank in Cardinal, it will stop the increase from loading and cause an error. And then we have the system note of BPA employee with a missing performance rating. The cause for that is that the rating is not indicated in Cardinal for performance year 2022. Because of this, Cardinal won't be able to determine the employee's eligibility. So it won't stop the increase from loading. So just note that if you do see that and the employee is not eligible for an increase, you may have to take action to stop them from getting an increase. All right, let's talk about the agency blocks. Now, when you have employees that are not systematically blocked, but they should be blocked because they are not eligible for whatever reason for the legislative salary increase, you will need to manually block that individual employee to stop them from processing. And you'll do that by selecting the checkbox and adding an agency comment regarding why you're excluding the employee from the automated process. We do have some examples of why you would want to utilize that feature, but it certainly is not limited to these 3 examples that you see here. One of the examples would be for a performance rating that is below contributor, but has not been entered into Cardinal yet. We also have our 9, 10, or 11-month employees who should receive an increase at a later date and time. Again, this cycle is only for that 5% increase on June 10th. So if the employee is eligible for that increase later, you will want to manually block them. And if the employee is terminated, however, the termination hasn't been keyed prior to the last refresh of this tool, you'll want to manually block that employee to exclude them from the increase process. Here we have our refresh schedule. So what is a refresh? There are system blocks, system notes, and changes to salary amounts that will be refreshed on the following schedule to reflect data changes. Basically, the refresh is to allow Cardinal to grab the latest and greatest information for the employees. So if you made any corrections in your employees' data, that the refresh will grab that information and pull it into the actual tool. So we have two refreshes. Our first refresh is scheduled on Thursday, May 25th, and that will be between 8 p.m. and 11:59 p.m. So any corrections to data needs to take place before that first refresh. You also have a final refresh on Wednesday, May 31st, between 8 p.m. and 11:59 p.m. Again, you'll want to make any final corrections to your data prior to that refresh. We do have a verification time frame. Verification is when you will go confirm your data is accurate as is, that you've reviewed everything, you've made corrections that made the necessary corrections to employees' information, and your data is ready to be loaded into Cardinal for the legislative increase. That specific time frame is between Thursday, June 1st through Wednesday, June 7th at 5 p.m. So that is the deadline for making changes to your data. All right, let's talk about verifying your specific business unit. We talked about the refresh schedule and the final refresh on May 31st. After that final refresh on Thursday, June 1st, you will see a new checkbox appear in the summary statistics section. And it will add a column of verified where your agency will need to go back into the tool and check this specific checkbox, confirming that you have reviewed your information, you've made the necessary corrections, and your data is ready to be to receive the increase. Okay, you'll select that checkbox. If you verify prematurely and you save that selection, you may come back into the page and uncheck the box and continue reviewing your information. For agencies, you must select the verified checkbox, otherwise your data won't be loaded and your employees won't receive the pay increase automatically. Again, your deadline to verify is Wednesday, June 7th at 5 p.m. For our agencies who elect to opt out, you will not be expected to verify, okay? So this step is not for you. All right, Cardinal processes the pay increase. This is when Cardinal loads the pay changes. That's going to occur on Saturday, June 10th. For all the verified business units, the business units who have checked that verified checkbox. The transactions will appear once they're loaded into Cardinal on the employee's job record. The action will be pay rate change, and the reason will be the fiscal year 24 statewide increase. And the effective date of that transaction will be June 10th, 2023. Agencies will be able to review these transactions that next Monday and address any errors for employees that did not load into Cardinal. For the employees that did not load into Cardinal but should have, agencies will be responsible for manually entering those pay increases by the or before the end of the June 10th through 24th pay period. Okay. These changes or these transactions must be entered into Cardinal on the job data page for the employee prior to the HR data freeze at 1 p.m. on June 23rd. All right, let's talk about steps for checking and addressing your errors after the load processes. So beginning the morning of Monday, June 12th, agencies will need to go back into the tool on that review page, populate the grid of employees, and review their errors tab. You'll identify the employees that did not process, and that'll be a notification to you that there may be some data correction that needs to take place, as well as you'll need to go and manually process these individuals either through a manually keying into Cardinal, submitting via interface for interfacing agencies, or using our mass upload template. In the summary statistics section, you will see the employees that processed as well as the employees that failed, or the counts, sorry. And you can populate the grid for errors only, the employees that errored out only, by selecting the errors only checkbox. Again, you do have that option of exporting to Excel. And to ensure that you're only viewing the load errors, you will make sure that you select the load errors tab. Now, steps for checking and addressing your errors continue. If there are no errors, the load errors tab will not display. So if all your employees process and your process failed column is set to 0, then you won't see the load errors tab. If you do happen to have an employee that should have had an increase and did not, you'll need to manually enter that pay rate change. We talked about that already. If you do have an employee that received an increase and should have not, then that may result in you logging a ticket into Cardinal for that employee's data to be corrected. Also, if your employees' increase results in their salary being outside of their pay band, for those employees, you'll need to contact the HRM iHelp so that those transactions can be processed by them. All right, we're going to take a quick pause because that was a lot of information and I'm sure we have a ton of questions. So I'm going to pass it over to Jolene and we'll go through your questions.
Super. I've collected a variety of questions that have come in. The first one, I believe, is from an R3 agencies. Where's the performance rating data coming from? Ratings were not entered into Cardinal last year.
Hi, this is Kim White. So my recommendation is that any agency, regardless of what release you were in, go back and load your performance evaluation data from last fall. It will greatly enhance your ability to review your data, and there's nothing that prevents you from going in and uploading those performance evaluations. And we do have R3 agencies that have done so.
Thank you. Next question. If an employee is out on short-term disability and doesn't return until 6/11, they don't get the increase at all, do they?
So no, that's not correct. So if an employee is on an unpaid leave status on 6/10, their increase is not going to be processed through this. However, if they return to work or return to a paid leave status after, then they would be eligible to receive the increase. So you may need to manually process their increase if they're returning to work after to a paid leave status after the effective date of the increase.
Next question. So any changes made after May 31st will not be included. Is that correct? Because that's the last time we're running the process that updates everything.
So if a change is made in job data after the final verification, that's not going to stop the pay increase from processing. It's just not going to have shown up in your process of reviewing your employment data because that data had not been entered yet.
All right, so next question, I have two questions, and I think the first question is really, if you're an interfacing agency and you opt out of this tool, does that mean we do not have to worry about blocking?
Yes, if you are an interfacing agency and you opt out, you're done with using this tool. You will have to manage your salary increases through your interface and verify the increases process by using your interface error report to ensure that all of your pay increases processed through your interface with Cardinal.
All right, so if Lauren, your question was about using the tool while you're interfacing, let us know so we can follow back up on that. Are we allowed to key and update continuous service dates during the Cardinal freeze this week? Is that the freeze for payroll? Current payroll. All right, I'm gonna let Kim answer that.
So if you're correcting those service dates, I don't think there's any issue for you to go ahead and key those during the HR freeze. It just means anything you key in HR does not go to payroll when that freeze is in effect, unless it's like a new hire or something. So don't think that should be an issue.
All right, we've addressed this a couple of times. This tool only applies to salaried employees. It does not apply to wage employees. A question about performance evaluation. What is the deadline to have performance evaluations updated in Cardinal in order to have that data included in the refresh?
Would need to be loaded prior to the times that were on that page of when the refreshes are being run. And the tool this time is not actually blocking people because of the performance data, because we knew a lot of agencies had not gotten that in, but it will definitely help you be able to review your data if you can get that loaded.
Will PSB agencies have to take these steps? And the answer to that is absolutely. You're responsible for your HR actions. For those agencies who are not using the tool and are uploading, what date does the upload need to be done by? And I think Kelly, I think we responded in an email by noon on June 8th to an agency who asked us this question for the upload to give us enough time. So the question was, if they're not using the tool and they're using the mass upload, what date does the upload need to be done by and passed over?
June 8 at noon.
Okay, June 8th at noon is the response I know we gave to DOC. So this is to Supreme Court. I think that gives us enough time to make sure your file is valid and working. We don't have any questions and we're not calling you at 7 p.m. on a Friday night. Sounds like General Assembly increases will be loaded on the day of 6/10. So this should be done before any other 6/10 agency transactions. So I think the question is, do we want HR admins in the system on 6/10, which is a Saturday, I believe, doing a lot of keying while we're also trying to do this process?
Absolutely not. We do not want a lot of people in the system while we're in the process of processing these pay increases on June 10th, which is Saturday. So agency HR administrators should take that day off.
You all deserve it, especially after this. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get Sam moving into the demonstrations. So Sam, take it away.
All right, we are going to close out the slide deck and actually jump into the system. All right, we are going to go into our staging environment. So let me go ahead and sign in. And from the home page, as you saw in the deck, the navigation for this increase page is going to start off at workforce administration. Then we're going to go into job information, and then legislative salary increase, and then the legislative salary increase review page. The legislative salary increase refresh page, you guys will not see. It is on my menu only because of my specific security. Like always in Cardinal, you will start off at a search criteria page where you'll enter in your salary increase cycle. Should only see one salary increase cycle, so you'll select that specific one. And then you're going to type in your specific business unit that you're working on. For this demo, we're working on business unit 766. Before I go into the page, we have masked the data so that there is no personal identifying information, but you will see some live data in the system. Just keep in mind that we've made some changes so that it doesn't expose any PII. All right, then we'll click on the search button to open up the page. And as we showed you in the deck, I'll make this a little bit bigger. The page has a lot going on. We start off with the instruction tab at the top. Again, it's recommended that you read the instructions entirely each time that you come on the page, because these instructions may change depending on where we are in the process. Once you're done reading, you can collapse the instructions. You can review your summary statistics section. For our business unit, we picked a smaller agency with limited data so that we can do a full demonstration for you. So obviously your specific agency may look a little different. You may have a lot more numbers, but when you get on the page, initially, when you're reviewing your information, you're going to want to confirm your total of eligible employees, okay? You'll also make note of your blocked employees, and as well as your employees that are scheduled to be processed. You want to make sure you confirm your totals to make sure that any eligible employees are also included in this process. Again, for our agencies that elect to opt out, such as interfacing agencies or agencies that may not have eligible employees, you'll select the opt-out checkbox and click on the save only button, or this save button at the bottom of the page. All right. In this populate grid section, this is where you would go to filter your employees, either by department, salary admin plan, or the specific individual employee ID. You can also view the system block only by selecting the checkbox, and I'll show you what that looks like by populating the grid on the page itself. And let me scroll down. You'll see that we have the 4 blocked employees that display in the grid. And we can go through, review the information about why these employees are blocked, and make any corrections that are needed. So in this example, we see Betty Boop is blocked because they're missing an expected return date. Sleepy Slacker is blocked because their performance rating is determined to be ineligible, so they are less than contributor. We have Tina Turner, she's blocked because she is on an unpaid leave. And Johnny Depp is blocked because his continuous state service date is missing. All right, let me unselect system block and populate our full population. Now you'll see the full population. Some of the employees are not blocked, but we do have some employees, again, that are not blocked, but have a system note. So that means that there is an issue with their data, and they may not be blocked by the process, but may error out during the load. So that means that they won't get the salary increase. So you want to review the system notes and address any issues. For Shannon Quasi, her specific system note says they are under the min rating. I'm sorry, the min rate. So this specific transaction will need to be go over to DHRM for this to key. And for Shannon Quasi, you can block them with an agency block and add a note to send over to DHRM, indicating that this person shouldn't be processed. But again, you'll have to follow up to make sure that they get the increase if they are eligible. We see the VPA employee with a missing performance rating. Again, if this employee, maybe the rating is not entered, but they wouldn't be eligible. If we wanted to block this specific employee, we would go ahead and select the agency block and add the comment. And again, we see over max rate and citizenship are not blocked by the system, but there are system notes indicating that there's data issues. All right, so now that we have our full population, I'm going to go ahead and review the data, make sure our employees' information is accurate. We can click on the details tab to see a more robust view of the employee's details. So I'll show you what that looks like. Obviously, more columns, more information to review, but it will help you in determining your employee's current status and if it is accurate as is. One thing I want to mention, if you do want to export your entire list to an Excel spreadsheet, you will get this downloaded detailed view for you to review for your employees. All right, so we populated our grid. I can review the information, toggle back and forth between the summary and details tab as needed. And I can address any system blocks by reviewing those system notes and updating any necessary information. So once you go in the tool, you're gonna want to review the blocked information and make those adjustments for those employees. And I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute, but I want to make sure that before I do that, I can address any agency blocks at this time, just because of the time frame of this forum. And I'm not going to go through all of the blocked transactions. I'm sorry, all the blocked employees, but I'll go through a few just so you can see what you will be required to do. All right, so I'm going to add an agency block for Popeye. We're going to block him because Popeye has actually submitted his resignation, so he should not get the increase because he is residing on June 10th. And I will add an agency comment that indicates that. And again, if I want to view my blocks only, I can click on the block only checkbox and populate the grid again. And address those employees that have missing data. So in this example, I'm actually going to address Betty Boop, who is missing an expected return date, as well as Johnny Depp, who is missing a continuous state service. In order to address these two issues, we'll go to their job data page. So again, I'll press save to make sure I saved my changes. And then I'll go in the system and navigate to their job data information page. Obviously, you may not do this all in the same day, and it also may not be the same HR administrator that is reviewing the tool and then correcting data. But again, for purposes of a full demonstration, we're going to do all of this in the time allowed. All right, so to pull up Betty Boop's address, job record, typed in her name, and I'll click on include history. And I'll review her job record. From the tool, we know that she was missing an expected return date, and she is out on leave. And I can confirm that the expected return date is missing. So I'm actually going to review her information and update this in Cardinal. To do that, you guys should already know, you'll add a row. And let's say we're entering in an extension. Her leave has been extended. So we'll use the effective date of May 10th. And we'll, select the action of data change, reason of data change, and enter in our expected return date, which is June 10th. And then I'll save that information. We are going to run the refresh process so you can see how the changes update the tool once the refresh process happens, and how you'll go back, confirm those changes have updated the tool, and now the employees that are supposed to be eligible are no longer blocked from receiving the increase. All right, I'm going to return to search so I can address Johnny Depp. For Johnny Depp, if you remember from the tool, he was missing a continuous state service date. So as per our previous forum for the service dates, we'll go ahead and add a row effective 4/25. Because we're using a previous row's effective date, we'll increment the effective sequence to 1. We'll enter a action of data change and a reason of leave eligibility date. And then I'll navigate to the employment data page and update the continuous state service and the annual leave eligibility date. And those dates are actually November 10th of 2022 for Johnny. All right. So after you address all your employees in the system, once the refresh has processed, you'll want to go back into the tool and confirm that the employees are now, the employees that are eligible are no longer blocked, and address any additional issues that you may have seen populate in the tool since you had been in the tool last. So at this time, since we've done the first 2 demos, we are going to pause for question and answers, and we're also going to process that refresh just so that when I go back into the system, you can see how that data, those data corrections affect the tool.
All right, so I think we could clarify for interfacing agencies that June 8th date. Because we got several questions from our interfacing agencies, whether that applied to them versus the mass upload. So earlier when we referenced the due date for the mass upload, should you opt for that option, we would like to have it from you by Thursday, June 8th at noon. That's ideal. If you can't work that, you need to let us know and we can chat about what will work. But that's our goal for you and for us, so that we're not having a dialogue late on a Friday afternoon while we're trying to get everything loaded up. For interfacing agencies, what is their drop dead date for sending those changes through the interface? Is it Friday June 9th? No, okay.
Allow your interface system program to process as you've normally established it to process. So once you have the transactions into your system, the interface into this system as they normally would. You also cannot future date interfacing transactions. So you must, process those salary increases on or after June 10th in accordance with the interfacing program.
All right, so you would need to make sure you don't have any interfacing errors that are coming in. Whatever your normal process is, give yourself a lot of time. If you have questions about that, write us. We can probably provide a recommendation. We have a question about continuous service dates and the leave eligibility date that have been updated with the error. Do both the continuous service date and the leave eligibility date have to be updated with that error?
So no, not specifically. The error is just being triggered by the missing continuous service date. However, that particular employee was missing both fields, and not to confuse you, I wanted to make sure that we added both dates in because those dates are important for absence management.
Okay. We're going back to performance ratings. Definitely it's something that I think is going to be a challenge, but if the performance rating is not loaded into Cardinal, will the increase load or not load?
It will load. We are not applying that block during this cycle because we knew there was a ton of missing data. It just, you will have to make sure you are carefully reviewing all of your data that to make sure anyone who does not meet the requirement is blocked. And you get blocked manually because you won't be seeing system messages other than performance evaluation is missing.
So the system is open, and agencies have had the opportunity for the past, I don't know, almost the past year since going live into Cardinal to actually upload their performance ratings. We know with the system, all the transition that has occurred over the past year or so, that many agencies haven't had the opportunity to do that. So this is just to make you aware for those agencies who have already loaded their performance ratings, then the tool will pick up those performance ratings and assist with that process. Going forward, agencies will be able to do that in future years to make this hopefully more effective. But consistent with past practice, agencies are accountable for ensuring that their employees meet the performance expectations. And so you'll just block or unblock employees on the list accordingly.
All right. Getting the signal that we're ready to move back to the demonstration. So back to you, Sam.
All right, we're going to go over reviewing your data after the refresh. Remember, there are 2 refreshes that are going to process. There's the initial refresh on May 25th, and then there is the final refresh on May 31st, okay? In this demo, we're only going to go through 1 refresh, but you have those 2 refreshes to get your data corrected before you have to verify your information. All right, let's go back into the system, and we'll go back to that legislative increase page. So again, we have processed the refresh, whether it was the initial or final. So we're going to review our information and confirm our corrections had accurately corrected our employees, okay? We see our system blocks has changed as well as our to be processed, and our totals still remain the same. And we did save our agency block, that one Poppy, I want to say it was Popeye, that we blocked because they are terminating June 10th, but we have not submitted that transaction. So we'll go ahead and repopulate our entire population and review our information. Again, we corrected Betty Boop. We see that the system block is now removed and the system notes are no longer showing. So that means we've addressed the issue accurately, and now Betty Boop will process or should process when the upload occurs. Also, Johnny Depp, we have addressed his issue and his system block has been removed and his system notes are no longer displaying. Again, you want to review your information because obviously there could be transactions that have been keyed since the previous refresh or since you've last gone into the tool. So you'll want to review your information every time you go into the tool and make any additional corrections as needed. Obviously, there are still some blocked employees. If they were eligible for the increase, we would want to take the required action. But for this demonstration and the purpose of time, we are not going to do that. Okay. And again, our agency block is saved with our agency comments because we saved the data as is. All right. So in order for us to, once we do the final refresh, your agency will be responsible for going back into the tool, again, validating your information, making sure that it is accurate as is. You can review the details page just to make sure that make sure once again that all your information is accurate. And once you have confirmed that the information is accurate, you would be able to verify your information. So actually, our verify button is not available yet. So, all right, 1 second, guys. Might need to give the data a chance to upload or reload, refresh. Okay. All right, so we refresh and now we have our verify checkbox. So again, recap, we would populate our grid, review our data, make sure that everything is accurate as in real time and that we are ready, our population is ready for the process. So we will select that we have verified, confirming to Cardinal that our population is good to go and they can process our agency's legislative salary increases. Again, you will select save only or the save button at the very bottom to save your changes. And then once the salary increases are loaded into Cardinal on June 10th, that following Monday, you'll come back into the tool and you will see what employees have processed and any errors if they are any. We are going to demonstrate that specific process so you can see the errors that load onto the page, and you'll see that error tab display because we should have some errors. So now we're going to go into analyzing your errors after the legislative increase processes in Cardinal. Again, once the process runs, you're not done yet. You still got to go back into the tool, review any errors, and take action on the employees that did not process that should have, okay? So let me take down the deck. And I'm going to sign out and sign in just so that this refreshes because we are using our stage environment. All right. We'll go back, navigate back to that legislative increase page. I'm going to actually use my recently visited so I can quickly get there. And I'll select the cycle and go back to my business unit. All right, so now our summary statistics page looks a little different. We also see our instructions have been look different. As we said, those instructions are going to change depending on where we are in the cycle, okay? And our summary statistics, now we see that the status is complete and we see how many rows have processed to success, as well as how many rows that processed or failed to process, okay? We can review your entire population, right? But really we want to address the failed failed transactions. So we're going to select the errors only checkbox and populate our grid so we can review those 3 employees that did not process. And we know that Shannon didn't process, as well as Miley Smith, because they are outside the salary grade. And these specific transactions need to go over to DHRM for processing. And I'm sorry, I was on the wrong tab. On the load errors tab, you'll see more information about why the employee didn't process, but it's pretty self-explanatory. We should know under min and over max rate what those mean. And then we'll see the error message on the right, the very last column, letting you know why the employee did not process. For our final employee, Charlotte's Web, she was missing her citizenship, and because of that, she failed to load as well. All right, if we want to review the entire population, we'll do that. And to confirm or review, the salary increase has populated on the eligible employees' job records. We can go ahead and navigate to those specific job records and review that information. I'll just review Betty Boop because I think the process will be the same for all of them. And then also confirm that the employee that was blocked did not receive the increase, or the employee that was blocked by the agency. So we'll review Betty Boop and Popeye. So we see the last or the current transaction or future, because of the date, transaction for Betty Boop is effective June 10th, and it is the statewide salary increase. All right. And then our employee that did not process because we blocked them. We see on his job record, this specific employee does not have the increase. Okay, so we can confirm that he did not process. All right, and now I will go back into the review tool. One thing they are asking me to go over with you guys is how these columns, you can utilize them to sort, okay? So if you want to sort by system block, you can click on the system block and resort the grid or the system nodes, status, etc. So the tool is very functional. It was a lot of information we covered. I'm going to do a brief summary of all of that information, again, just for your benefit. But please know that you do have your resources, which we'll go over in the end of the form, as we usually do, and utilize those resources as needed. Also, for the questions about blocks and agency blocks and system notes in the meeting, in the deck, we do have that table for you that provides more detailed information, so you don't have to memorize the information. All right, so I am going to sign out, go back into our deck. So again, we're going to go over our next step instructions in a brief summary. We've already heard all this information, but I just want to summarize it real quickly to help hit it home for you, for anybody that still has any outstanding questions. First thing, agencies are going to choose their approach. They're going to determine if they are going to utilize the tool and have their increases centrally processed by Cardinal PPS team on June 10th of this year. Then agencies are going to coordinate within their teams to identify somebody that's going to be the primary reviewer. Why is this important? Because it's 1 page per agency. And if you have multiple people on that page making updates to the tool, you may experience some data conflict. So you want to identify a primary reviewer and divvy out any tasks amongst your agency HR team. Then you'll begin your review. You will use that populate grid and export to Excel to review your list of eligible employees. Keep in mind, if you are a large agency with more than 1,600 salaried employees, you will need to export to Excel in order to see your entire population. And then you'll review your system blocks for your population. You want to take action on any employees that are with an indicator of blocked and they have a system note to address the issue if they are eligible for the increase. Okay. And you want to do that timely so that the information can be corrected prior to the next refresh, certainly prior to verifying your data. You'll review all system notes. Keep in mind, some of the notes won't result in the employee being blocked in the system. However, they may result in the employee erroring. They may result in an error when Cardinal runs the load and processes the increase. So therefore, they won't receive the increase. If they were eligible, but they did not receive the increase because they were blocked for whatever reason or they errored out, you will still be responsible for entering that specific transaction. You will add your agency blocks for any employees who should be blocked but are not systematically blocked. To do that, you'll select the checkbox of blocked and you'll enter a note of explaining why they're being blocked. As a reminder, this tool is only to be used for that 5% increase for classified employees that will be in effect June 10th of 2023. We do have highlighted that any 9, 10, or 11-month employees who should receive an increase at a later date and time should be marked as blocked by the agency to prevent them from receiving that increase before they are due. We do have our refresh of the data in the tool, and that will occur twice on May 25th and May 31st. I know I said that a couple times, but just to help you remember, you got 2 refreshes to correct or 2 chances to correct your data before we do require you to verify your information so that we can load the transactions. And the refreshes that occur, as you saw in our demo, will not cause you to lose any agency blocks or comments. So if you have blocked employees as appropriately, that information will still be maintained in the tool. After the May 31st refresh, that final refresh, you will need to go back into the tool because a new checkbox will appear on June 1st, where you will review and confirm your employees are included or blocked appropriately. And you'll confirm by checking that verified checkbox to indicate to DHRM and Cardinal that your review is complete. And this will cause your list to become read-only. Okay, if you verify prematurely, you may uncheck the checkbox and continue reviewing. For agencies who elect early to opt out or elect to opt out, you will not be expected to verify or complete that process of verifying your business unit. But you will be expected to insert your increases on within Cardinal for your employees that are eligible. The deadline to verify is Wednesday, June 7th at 5 p.m. After June 7th, Cardinal will load the pay rate changes on Saturday, June 10th for all the business units that have selected that verify checkbox. And as you saw on the job record of the employees that received the increases, you will see that transaction effective June 10th with the pay rate change and the reason code of FY24 statewide increase. And our final step will be for you to review and address any errors. So after the load processes, that next Monday on June 12th, you will need to go in. You can go into the salary increase tool and select the error tab to review the errors for the employees that did not process. We saw this occur in the system, but you'll navigate back to the page, check the summary statistics section to review who did not, well, the number of employees that processed compared to the number of errors. Select the errors tab, populate your grid, and take any necessary actions to add the pay rate change for those employees that should have processed but did not. If for some reason you cannot add the transaction, because maybe there is a blocking transaction, or obviously if the salary increase is outside of the grade, you will need to submit the transaction information to the appropriate channels as you see on this slide. That may be BCCC or DHRM. And all of the salary increases must be entered before that data freeze on the June 10th through 24th pay data freeze for the employees who are eligible to receive their increases on their July 3rd paycheck. Since there are no questions, let's go over the resources that we have available. So, as always, we do have our support materials. We have the personal data query. This query has been modified to include citizenship status. You can utilize this query to review your employee citizenship status and correct any data that needs corrected. Keep in mind the citizenship must be USA because we work in the United States. You'll also have your job data query that you can use to confirm the employee's counts as well as their correct status. You have the performance rating query that will confirm that your ratings are entered and accurate for all your employees that are eligible for performance rating within Cardinal. And we do have a report that will be useful to you for leave absences. You can run this leave absence report to ensure all short-term disability claims are up to date and the expected return dates are not blank. because if they are blank, the system will automatically block the employee from receiving the increase. We have a few job aids that are beneficial to you. We have the temporary job aid that was created specifically for this process that goes through the steps that we just went through, step by step, that you can utilize as a desk aid to help you through this process. And also we have our generating an HCM report job aid and running an HCM query job aid. And then you have your DHRM resource. This is a specific link that will take you to DHRM's resource page for more information about the increase. All right, additional support. As always, we are here for your support and help you be successful in this process. We ask that you first initially utilize your agency support. Your agency has its own guidelines for resolving issues and questions, and you have agency contacts that are equipped to address any agency-specific details, including how your agency is utilizing the Cardinal system, as well as any specific HR policy questions and procedures. Next, you have your VCCC help desk. You will submit your ticket, as most of you should be familiar with. In your ticket, you will include Cardinal HR legislative increase in the subject so that the ticket can be routed to the correct team to help address any questions or issues as quickly as possible. Please note you want to provide as much detail in the body of the ticket. That helps us not to have to go back and forth asking questions about what you need Cardinal to correct or help you with. Also, please include your name, email address, and a good contact number, just in case we do have questions. Okay. And lastly, you do have some information about DHRM assistance. For policy, not system-specific questions, you will send those questions to DHRM iHelp. And for any compensation-specific questions, you will send those questions to compensation@dhrm.virginia.gov. So with that, I believe that wraps up our forum for today. I will turn it back over to Jolene. I thank you for bearing with us. I know that was a lot of information, and I just want to say good luck. Jolene?
Thank you, Sam. Excellent job. Really appreciate that. So as a reminder, you will get the recording and the deck within the next day. If we don't have the recording right away, we'll send out the deck separately, but we hope to be able to bundle those together right away so you can start to take action in conjunction with these materials. If you didn't have a chance to look at DHRM's email that was sent out, I believe on Thursday morning, the 18th, please go back and look for DHRM comms, and that message came from Rue White. Well, it came from DHRM comms, and it's also, Natalie just told me it's on the DHRM website. There's a whole page dedicated to this. Many of you were already looking for this when the page was just being set up. So take time to look through the materials that are provided while you're waiting for this deck and while you're waiting for the recording. There's not a lot of time to take action. So like Sam said earlier, look at the slides where we provided the overview of steps. Those are also, that information is also in the job aid. So all these pieces fit very nicely together. If you have some questions, don't hesitate to send us a ticket with details specific to what you're looking for. We thank you for your time and attention as always. Look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.